Recording in progress.
Greetings, committee support and honorable members. Just checking from my side, it would appear that we've got the required number to start the meeting.
Evening, Chairperson. We have the required number. Thank you.
Right. I'm not sure. I will then get it when we deal up with apologies, because I tried to check if the minister or deputy minister is on the platform or not. Okay. We'll deal with
The
that.
minister's on the platform now, Chairperson.
All right. Thank you. Greetings, honorable members. Greetings to the minister, representatives from the department. Greetings to the leadership of the entities on the platform, civil society structures, and as well as the legal team from Parliament, who will help us on one item arising out of the minutes read in the previous meeting. So I greet them. I saw 30 on the platform. So we'll call them in on that item. The leadership, as I said, of the entity Postbank, I saw on the platform, as well as fellow South Africans who are following us on the streaming platforms made available by Parliament to ensure public participation. I will, honorable members, without a waste of time, just dispense with rules on convening meetings on this platform. Once again, just to remind ourselves that at all times we have to keep Our mics muted, video camera switched off until you are recognized by the chairperson. Once recognized by the chairperson, you'll proceed to unmute your mic, switch on your video camera, proceed. In a case where you are experiencing connectivity challenges, you will then require permission of the chair to switch off your video camera so as to maximize your bandwidth, and then proceed to sleep. It's also understood that from time to time, there'll be those that may lose connectivity and have to reconnect to the meeting. Please ensure at all times as you do that, that your video camera is off and that your mic is muted, as mics are very sensitive for pick up background sounds that may disrupt the meeting. Point of orders are allowed in terms of the rules. But on this platform, members are advised that as you raise the point of order, use your gadget to raise your hand for the recognition by the chairperson. And the chair, in case is unable to see that, will then be assisted by committee support. And with committee support, the chair will then recognize you. Only once recognized by the chairperson, that you would proceed to raise the point of order on which the chairperson could rule upon in terms of the rules. We are advised further, honorable members, not to raise unnecessary point of orders to a point where the meeting collapses on this platform. With those basic rules, they should help us to have quality discussions in the meeting. I will, for purposes of record, with an understanding that we have got the numbers to proceed, that for us to recognize apologies that may have been received by the office for purposes of record. Comment report.
Evening, Chairperson. We have apologies for the Deputy Minister and apologies for our member, Mr. Gumbo. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable members, those are the apologies received. Thank you, Mr. Ngoma. My video was on my side, so I thought I'm projected properly. Having received those apologies, I take it that we grant leave of absence to those that have sent apologies to the committee support. May I just check if apologies from members that may have not reached the committee support staff for purposes of record? I take it that there's none, so there's no member who may have a commitment that makes to leave the meeting earlier than expected. Thank you, honorable members. I'll just check from your team, the honorable minister, if there are those people that thought it's important that the meeting know their absence from the meeting as a way of apologies. If they are not, other than the one of the deputy minister, of course, you can then indicate. So I take it that there's none. With that having been said, as we open the meeting and ask the committee support to lift up the agenda, just to explain the agenda as discussed, we have the briefing by the Postbank. This is an item that members would remember would have been held back because we didn't have the members to proceed. There's a number of members, including the chair, on sick leave. So brought back the item. And this item has been, its presentation has been circulated to all members. and therefore would receive a presentation that talks to the key points. The second one is a matter that emanates from the minutes and the discussion we've been having as a committee on the SABC bill. What we will get in that item in the main is a presentation from legal, Ms. Mtati, that I've recognized earlier on what we would have given to them. And from that point, we'll then have to guide how the committee proceeds from there. Point 3 was the legacy report. Of course, it would have preempted that we would have dealt with all the items we needed to deal with, including the SABC corporate plan, which could not be finalized as there are still discussions within the SABC to make sure that the report that is put before the committee has credibility in all respects. So that's the reason it's not there. We've since applied that we place it in the meeting as per our program. Our last meeting was meant to be on the 26th, which is next week, so that there are matters that we need to put up from there in the legacy report. We can then capture that and then approve the legacy report. But the understanding I have from committee support is that we do have that approval, look at the SABC corporate plan, as well as adoption of legacy report for purposes of putting it also on the ATC, so that the Parliament could consider that. And then we deal with the adoption of minutes in that way. So that's how the meeting is to be approached. So once we get to 2, as I say, that's when we have legal. And then we'll explain that point why we would need them to present in full what they say is their opinion and advice to the committee. From there, it will be the committee to make the call. With that having been said, honorable members, of course, I want to just state, Mr., for the purposes of time, that we usually would give you first an opportunity to speak to the committee, take us into confidence on a number of matters that may also be of interest to the South Africans. Once you do that, as you do the overview on the item that's before us, based on how you've looked at how you are going to approach this presentation, we'll then apply the 30 minutes for you and the team to go through the presentation. So I give 30 as maximum. If you are able to get to the key points in 15, 20 minutes, it then helps the members to have more time to engage the actual presentation. They are to engage the presentation. So that's going to be that. Immediately after the presentation, we then take questions, comments from members, make a summary, and close on that item, and then move to item 2. You are free to stay in item 2, but it's really a committee matter. But you're free to stay if you so want to stay. But otherwise, you could still be released to ensure that a few cards are issued by Postbank before we get to the Easter. That will also be allowed for you to do so. So we are back now to you as I welcome you, Honorable Minister, to take the committee through item 1.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, honorable members, DG and the team, Postbank CEO and her team, and all attendant colleagues. Honorable Chair, thank you for the opportunity. Honorable Chair, the Postbank is currently designated as a national payment system participant in terms of Section 6BB of the National Payment System Act 78 of 1998. Postbank's designation as a designated clearing system participant in November 2020, the South African Reserve Bank, as the regulator, engaged the bank regarding its non-compliance with conditions of designation notice. The non-compliance related to the weaknesses in its IT environment, including the card security breach, vulnerabilities in its IT security, and the fact that IT infrastructure was non-conformance with banking industry standards. And then when that happened, a variation notice, you are put in a variation notice. Variation notice simply being you are going to be instructed to work differently from the normal way you work and be restricted with regard to the kind of service you bring until the defect the Reserve Bank has identified is resolved. To remedy the non-compliance, the Reserve Bank issued a variation notice published in Regulation Gazette number 1606 of Government Gazette number 5645, dated 17 December 2021, to vary the conditions of the designation notice of the Postbank. The variation notice, Chair, contained conditions that were imposed on the Postbank to implement and comply within 12 months from the Gazette date being the 17th of December, as I've already spoken about. The Postbank management would later motivate to the Reserve Bank for consideration to extend the variation by 12 months. The motivation on the basis that the reasons for the delay in implementing the variation notice were largely outside Postbank's control, in other words, exogenous. So the Reserve Bank then would have issued a second variation notice on the 23rd December last year, in which Postbank was granted 12 months up to 17 December 2024 to fully comply with the conditions of the notice. Honorable members, Postbank once more motivated for another extension, and it was, 2023, my apology. This extension I've spoken about is up to 2023. Postbank once more motivated for another extension, and it was granted based on the progress made and expressed commitments in addressing the conditions of the variation notice. Chair, this extension, which is the third variation notice, has been published in the Government Gazette of December 14, 2023. And the Reserve Bank has emphasized that it will not offer any extension beyond 31st March 2025. The Reserve Bank, as the regulator, is empowered to vary and revoke any designation of a clearing system participant in terms of the National Payment Systems Act, as I've already referred to, Act 78 of 1998 is amended. It is thus vital that the Postbank fully meet the conditions of the variation notice prior to the deadline of the 31st March 2025, given that failure to do so would risk the Postbank's designation as a designated clearing system participant being revoked by the Reserve Bank. The Reserve Bank is empowered to take actions in transferring of the designated clearing system participant business to another clearing system participant, like it was done in the case of the Itala Bank. Chair and honorable members, due to the variation notice, Postbank is currently prohibited from issuing new bank cards to clients and launching new products, which makes it difficult to retain existing license as well as attracting new clients, therefore restricting its revenue stream. It thus vital for the bank to expedite its compliance with conditions of variation notice especially considering the risk that failure by a Postbank to comply with the requirements with the revised extension might potentially lead to the revocation of the designation as a national payment system participant. Postbank presentation to the Portfolio Committee on Communication and Digital Technology covers steps taken and action items towards compliance with the Reserve Bank Operation Notice. It focuses on its implementation of IT modernization. To comply with the conditions issued by the South African Bank, embark on this. To comply with the conditions in the variation notice issued by the South African Reserve Bank, Postbank has embarked on the implementation of the IT modernization, and the details of which the CEO will speak about. I just want to make this point, Chair, that maybe I would have used this in my opening remarks, that honorable members will remember where this bank, which I think has stabilized, come from. It comes from a 3-year disclaimer, and also a couple of years without the executive appointment, all of them acting. And also it comes from the KPMG report that had the findings of illegal operation as far as the contract of EC was concerned, and all those issues. And honorable members will remember that in trying to intervene in that regard, the board opted to leave in anticipation of what could be the conclusion. And having said that, we also want to, on this platform, I want to, on behalf of the department, to appreciate the work done by the CEO who came around July or August last year, and for the work she has done to turn around the state of the bank. We think with all its challenges, it has, at least now, the bank is on course towards being established as a state bank, not in a long term. We want to appreciate the fact that the CEO has tried to fill some key posts, but she's here. She will give the detail of that. So in other words, the issues, as you have actually asked us to come to present, is the issue of both the variation notice and IT modernization, which the CEO will actually do that in detail. Having said that, I do want to say to all the members, they would remember that we had that public speech or public outcry when we had a glitch on the 6th of September 2023. And indeed, the CEO and the team were able to prevail over that because it was changing of the system and so on. We can say for now, the bank has stabilized, is able to issue, to pay people on the relevant dates. September is the last time we had a crisis in as far as payment is concerned. Of course, I do want to make the point that some clients would have left the bank during that time, but those details the CEO will deal with. Without belaboring this point, without taking much of your time, I would request TG and the CE to actually take to lead the stage in as far as the detail. TG? If the TG is not around, I will ask the CEO to take the stage. Nikki?
As I start counting the minutes, please proceed.
So minutes have been counted, have been explained for you, Nikki.
Thank you so much, Minister. Good evening.
Sorry, Nikki. Chair, there's a gadget with no name there. It's 4001818. Whose gadget is that? Sorry to disturb you.
Yeah. No, we'll ask committee support to check on that, but because the portfolio committee is open to the public, or members of the public, whether it's a society structure, may be having that link to get to the meeting, but we'll ask committee support in the meantime to check on that, whether it's a human being or not. can we proceed, CEO? Of course, I'll keep the minute.
Thank you so much, Chair, and good evening to members of the portfolio, members of the public who have joined, Honourable Minister, and officials of the Ministry. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm going to put on my camera, Chair. There I am. Unfortunately, if permission from the Chair is granted, I would prefer to switch it off because I am load shedding. Just in case my network is not strong enough.
Permission granted. Can proceed.
Thank you, Chair. And I would share from my side, if the host has the presentation, please share, or very happy to share from my side. If the members, the administration of the portfolio has the presentation, please, you can write the presentation for me. And while we source the presentation, as the Minister has said, my name is Nikki Mbengashe, the CEO of Postbank. And again, thank you for the opportunity. Yes, as requested, we're requested to share on two items, one being the variation notice, which I think the Minister gave a great context to it and how we landed here, and the history behind it. Must I share from my side?
You're able to share now, Ms. Nikki.
Host disabled. Thank you. Okay, so let me try and share. No, it still says host has disabled my ability to share. So I'll wait for that. I'll keep on trying. As I was saying, Chair, the Minister has given great context to where the bank comes from with the variation notice.
Chair, sorry, Negi.
Yeah, but
Chair,
you're
should
Minister.
you wait until it is said what were guided by yourself, Chair?
I take it that Minister is now been given the rights.
Can you try again? Can you try again?
Let me try. No, it still says disabled. It still says disabled participant screening sharing. So I still can't share from my side.
Can you solve that, commit support? So that you proceed.
We try, Chair.
Okay, I will continue, Chair, just giving the context while I wait for the support to help share the presentation, because I'm still disabled from my side, so I can't share from my side. As the Minister has said, the bank has had the variation notice for over 2 years now, starting from when we were given the designated participant license, which really gives you the rights to issue your cards, and therefore that started with some conditions that the bank had to fulfill, which at the time they couldn't. As the Minister said, there were circumstances that supported that. And then there was another year that we still could not really deliver to that variation notice. I'm still unable to share from my side. I keep on trying. I'm still unable to share. Oh, there we go. There's the presentation. Thank you so much. Thank you. We can move quickly to the third slide. Happy to do so. The third one. The next one. The next one. Thank you. This just gives the context, but I think the Minister has given great context, so I will leave the slide, and then we can move to the progress and where we're at, which is the next slide. So the variation had initially had 11 conditions that we had to comply to. The last condition, 3.3, was the condition added when we were given an extension as of last year, when we went back to the SAB to ask for an extension. I must say that SAB, when I joined, which is over July, was very reluctant that they would ever extend the variation notice. I think there was some discomfort in terms of the progress. So for us to actually been able to go back to SAB towards the end of the year with the minister around November last year, it really is a testament of SAB seeing great progress on this project. Since then, that they granted us this time not only 12 months, but 15 months. But I will explain the 15 months and why this time around the period granted was more. I think this time the bank was very clear of what really, to the detail of what really needed to be done. And therefore we could display this to SAB as we broke up the project to really understand the deliverables for each and every item that was still outstanding. But also further, I think SAB also appreciated the fact that we had at the time just over 5.2 customers, SASSA beneficiaries in particular, that we had to distribute to. And therefore, because we don't have a national presence, regional presence in terms of branches, and therefore we were able to display to SAB our plan of distribution and the amount and time that we need and the resources to ensure that we do it properly, to ensure that not only do we give customers a good experience, but also that we ensure that the compliance is complied to it completely. So that was the 15 months granting rationale behind that. So the 11 conditions, so the 3.3 condition right at the end of the slide was just that SAB wanted commitment from both the board and also from the ministry in terms of their commitment to support the variation notice and their commitment to recognize that there won't be any other extension, and committing to ensure that there's oversight and deliver on the project, which letters have been given to the SAB as the date was now in March, on the 14th of March. And the other outstanding conditions which we've marked amber, very happy to report that we've made great strides on these, and I mean, we've achieved quite a lot of stuff that was not achieved within the last 2 years and 3 years in instances on this project. That our confidence, in fact, the last call we had with SAB last week Friday, we literally got claps, literal claps, as they cautioned, in fact, the excitement on their side to ensure that they balance it, but also recognizing that this is really the first time they're starting to really have confidence that we're really going to achieve this, as they were very strict to also express to us that there was absolutely no leeway, absolutely no acceptance of not meeting any of the deadlines that they've given us, and therefore they were happy to hear the progress that we've made. Just maybe starting on 4.12, that was just what we call a key management in terms of where the inverted commas, the secret encrypted high guarded information of the bank sits and how we manage access to that. Happy to say that that is on track. We're definitely going to finalize that by March. We have done everything. In fact, I think now the last step that is required is just to ensure that we train what we call the key custodians. We've ensured that we've onboarded segregation of duties in terms of the policies around that, in terms of ensuring that the key management, the security in terms of how they kept that there's a balance between internal and external, but even the quality assurance of how we do that. So very happy that that is definitely going to be achieved. I'll come back to 1.3. I just want to quickly deal with the quick ones. 4.14, which is really that one around how we ensure that we have a disaster and continuity should something happen. Again, very happy to say that will be closed and be green by the 31st of March. That we've done well with it. We've tested some of our disaster recoveries. We've tested we've done the business continuity. In fact, even today, we're sitting and ensuring that we go through some critical policies that needed to take place, and also to ensure that the disaster recovery sites, the progress on those is on track. Yes, there's a risk on that. I'll talk about it on the other slide. Please don't move the slide. Okay, so we've lost the slide. I'm not sure what happened. The other condition, I'm not sure who was helping to share the slides. We've lost the slides. I still can't share from my side. I've just tried again.
Was it Zayton? Or it is that person who has lost connectivity? I
Is
see
it they've
Zayton
lost
is back now.
Okay, I'll wait for the slides quickly just to reflect whether I think it's the other item was around how we keep our information, which is called PCI DSS, which is a non-compliance that is quite critical, not only with the payment association, but with other banks as well, but also critical when it comes to the customer information, because it really speaks to how we keep the customer information, ensuring that all systems that we use are guarded against any theft or any loss of information and any passing of that information. And this is something, again, that is normally very difficult to achieve 100%. I'm still waiting, Chair, for them to share my slides. I still can't share from my side, but I'll continue to chat about the PCI DSS condition. So it's something that's very difficult for any bank to achieve 100%, as you would imagine in banking. In banks,
if you can just hold the CE back there, because also need members of the public to follow.
Thank you.
That's what proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Please, you can move to the previous slide. So I've spoken about condition 4.12, which is a key management. I'll come back to 3. I touched on 4 in terms of business continuity and disaster recovery, and I was now speaking around the one that talks about 5, or that was disaster recovery and continuity. So I was touching on 6 now in terms of the PCI compliance, to say that's actually very difficult, because in every bank, for every bank to achieve 100%, because as you would know, in banking, they'll have business unit, and therefore one business unit might not necessarily be compliant. But happy with that as well in terms of the progress that we've done with that, as it is an ongoing thing that we need to maintain. But happy that the QSA, which is the quality assurance, because someone external has to come and do the verification. But truly, honestly, they have to complete it. They have to complete it when you are actually distributing the cards and you're completely live. But happy to say that now with the test that they've done, because we wanted to be proactive and not wait until we're completely live and distributing cards. So initially they did a desktop analysis, and in that desktop we achieved about 85% pass rate, and we identified where the 15% lied. It was really related to SAPO and one other vendor that we're using, and we know exactly where the gaps were with the channel, some of the channel that we use in SAPO, and we believe that will be achieved by the 31st of March. And then the other vendor that we're using, we also know where the gap in that, and also they've already onboarded some people to help them with actually closing the gap, which was just one disaster site that was found to have some gaps, but it is happy because the main site was found to be compliant, 100% compliant with the certificate to prove it, but the other disaster site was said it was still missing some part of the compliance. The only reason we're saying that will go until March because it's just an ongoing requirement. But we have committed with PASA that in April, when we are live and we've started distributing the cards, the new cards, they will come, the QSA will come and test our environment. And at that time, we are required that we receive 100% compliance. And even more, just to prepare for that, we did not only rely on the desktop analysis, we have now busy doing the UAT environment, which is just your testing environment, user integrated testing environment, which is where we're now actually testing the systems themselves, although they might not be live, but we're testing not all live, but we're testing in terms of how they work, and that work is in progress, because that's just us preparing that we don't wait for the live environment, complete live end-to-end live environment for us to test, and then only then will we know where if any gaps. So very happy with that progress. And then just going back on the one in terms of redistributing the cards, which is produce and reissue, which is 1.3. Again, here, I mean, the bank has achieved one of the biggest milestones that it's ever achieved in over 3 years, in the sense that we have now produced our first test cards, which, and the reason we're even more confident and more excited about this milestone is that the test cards have been verified, because they have to go and be verified and checked by Visa in terms of all the compliance, which is the most critical part of the card, is the chip inside, which is where Visa comes from. And they've checked that, and we've got now compliance certificate from Visa in terms of us have passed that verification from Visa. And now we've just received the pack of the test cards, which then what you required once you receive that test card from Visa, then you print a few more cards based on the sample card, and then you do a testing with other banks. And just in the meeting today, we confirmed that we should do that testing with other banks and be completed by the end of March again, which is quite exciting, because one of our commitments to SAB is that in April, we want to start distributing, and we want to keep that commitment with SAB. So we have allocated some time in April to start doing what we call pilot distribution, which will accommodate two things, just for us to ensure that our plan in terms of distribution is working. Because as you recall, as I said, that remember, we don't have presence nationally, and therefore we have partnered with some of our distribution channels, like the retailers, and we just want to verify and ensure that both the processes are working, and just verify the time spent, the time to actually distribute, so that we can plan properly in terms of how many minutes and hours it takes to distribute to so many customers, so that there's a work plan and resource planning around that, so that by the time we stagger the distribution per region, as we learn, we get better. Because our distribution plan is staggered, we will tackle it per region. And the only reason we're doing that is also just to ensure that we do it right, we complete the region, and we know, but also that as we move from region to region, if there's any learnings, we ensure that we incorporate those learnings, we don't repeat them as we go to the next region. But also just to manage the risk that we don't, if there should be anything that doesn't work as we planned, it is not at a national level, but we can contain it and manage it and correct it, and then do not repeat it to the next. So very happy with the progress on this project. Like I said, great milestones that have not been achieved for over 2 to 3 years in some instances. But the progress that we've made so far in the last 7 months on it is really quite impressive. But at the same time, we're not relaxing. We're ensuring that we continue to deliver on our promises. And then just to share on some of the top 3 risks that we are also managing, which is the next, I think the slide after this. There's a slide or 2 slides after this, is that there's 3 risks that we identify that we're working with. You can move to the next slide for me. The next one. Thank you very much. The next one. Thank you. So the bank has a high dependency on third parties, and I think that's going to be the strategy of our IT strategy going forward, in terms of the ratio of outsourcing and insourcing, and ensuring that your critical systems are insourced. But of course, to do that, you need to ensure that you have the right capacity and capabilities internally to do that. So we've allowed ourselves time, but that dependency on external vendors, it means that you're managing external vendors to help you achieve some of this deliverables. But so far, we've done well, which is why we can present the achievements so far. Lack of funding, which is something that we're working with, we've recognized it, we accepted that it hasn't been, and therefore that is why for us the planning in terms of how we distribute needs to be quite stringent, and we really need to plan it well, because if then we don't understand the time it takes, the turnaround time, how many customers can go through, then we can't even plan the resources that we can have. but also we can't measure people in terms of performance. So we also to ensure that we keep and contain the cost. So that's something that we're working with. Skills and capacity within the bank. I think this we doing well in terms of achieving. I mean, the minister was sharing that the bank hasn't had a full exco for over 9 years, but happy to say that as we stand here, out of the 8 roles within exco, we have filled 6 of those, and quite critical ones as well, from the risk officer to the chief operating officer to finance. I must just say the our CFO is here with us, the chief audit executive, and only 2 are really outstanding. And then, of course, the CEO one as the 9th role in a bank that hasn't had a permanent CEO for over 9 years. So we've also done that, and we have focused on that first level, because if we have that first level, then the next levels are easy to fill in, because we have people who then we can hold responsible to ensure that implementation is taking place. And that's it on the variation notice, Chair. I don't know whether you want me to stop here, take questions, or just move on to the next one.
Move and complete the presentation.
Thank you. Thank you. I can move on to the next one. Thank you. So on IT modernization, this one I always caution, because sometimes it is completely linked to the variation notice, which is not. It's not. It really had one component that that links to the variation notice, and I think that's something that perhaps where we shortchange ourselves as a bank by thinking when we started the modernization, it was solving for the variation notice. No, it's not. But it is quite a critical project in the sense that the bank does need to be modernized. And as we were separating from SAPO, the bank needed its own banking compliance systems that are quite critical. And really, that's what this was providing for. On this one, we've done well as well. And I'll talk about the EMBA. The green we've completed, of course. The EMBA we have completed and ready to implement. The only hindrance that we've had with this one was that we thought we would be moving to new offices by last year, October. But I think, unfortunately, we lost those offices, and now we're starting all over again to ensure that we get new offices, because all of those, the WAN, the LAN, and the Active Directory up to, I'll talk about the data migration. But those top 3 are really about how we office, how we manage, how we work every day, how to ensure that we are a professionalized environment, how to ensure that we can link into Zoom without any issues. Our emails are working, they're secure in terms of how our systems work on day-to-day and how we operate as a business. The red one, the Oracle migration, and the other one, the data migration to SharePoint, that the red is red simply because we are in a dispute now with one of the suppliers that is helping us with this project over quite a big amount, which is now gone legal. It's no longer a dispute, it's gone legal. I think it's fully going to go to court. And therefore, that has been the one thing that held that deliverable. And this is something that we do truly believe that we need to fight for with this vendor, because we believe that we are being shortchanged in terms of what we expect and what they now seem to think they want to deliver. And as a result of that now has held the completion of the data migration, because it needs the Oracle licenses to be completed. And that was the only reason those 2 are not 100% completed. But we have, had it not been for that, this project would have delivered as it should by March 2024. But those 2, the fact that we didn't move to our offices as planned in October last year, and the second part, the legal dispute that we have with the vendor who's delivering on this project for us. And that's it, Chair. That's it from my side. Thank you, Chair.
I take it that
Back to you, Chairperson.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Minister. I will now go to members. Those who want to engage with the presentation will then raise their hands so that I recognize them. Honorable Minister, please mute your mic. The background sounds there, maybe disrupting a bit. I see Honorable Mazone on my side. Not sure if committee support there's any other hand.
Nothing on this side, Chair.
This time, we'll start with Honorable Mazone to proceed. Honorable Mazone, you are recognized. You can proceed.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, may I have your permission to keep my camera off for bandwidth?
Yes, thank you. You can proceed. Permission granted.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Good evening, Chairperson, members of the committee, Minister, and members of the Postbank. Thank you very much for the presentation. It's good to hear the upbeat attitude. I haven't heard the word happy being used that many times in a presentation for a long time. Chair, there are a few concerns that I do have, which I'd like the Minister as well as Postbank to please address for us. The first one relates, and this will be to the Minister, in actual fact, not really the Postbank board because it doesn't affect them, but the previous KPMG report, well, the notorious KPMG report that we speak of, as you would know, I pired that specific report and have studied the contents thereof quite seriously. And the board resigned en masse, as we all know, in September last year, and we know that the arguments went up and down between the Minister and board members. But at the end of the day, the buck has to stop somewhere, and the buck stops at the Office of Accountability, which is the Office of the Minister. So, Minister, I'd like to know what action, if any, are you taking against previous board members? And I'd like to know on what basis that action is being taken. Have any charges been laid? If so, what charges have been laid? And can we expect consequences? Because certainly, if it is the case, as you said in your press release and in your subsequent press briefing, that the board resigned in anticipation of the findings of the KPMG report, which found, amongst other things, 142 million rands worth of contracts which were continued with even when the board was said to have known that these contracts were irregular. Certainly there's criminal charges that need to be followed here, and I'd like to know, and I'm sure the public would like to know, what exactly are we doing in that regard to hold people to account. Then, Minister, obviously it's not a normal situation for an entire board to resign, citing a breakdown of relationship between the board and its chief stakeholder. So what steps are in place now to ensure that this board that we have currently in place, given the fact that we haven't had an entire executive for the last 9 years, what steps are now being put in place to make sure that we don't have a situation where we have another mass resignation should there be a deemed interference or a alleged dispute? I mean, how do we know that the same thing isn't going to happen again? We're now on the third approved variation from the Reserve Bank, and quite frankly, I think the Postbank is exceptionally lucky to have received an extension of the variations. But the Reserve Bank seems happy with progress. So, you know, I trust the Reserve Bank to be making this call on behalf of the people of South Africa. But one thing does worry me. In the presentation, the CEO said that SAPO and another contributor or another entity, refusing to name them, was responsible for one of the conditions being prolonged or not being able to be being met with regards to disaster management. I'd like to know it's SAPO and who else, because we're the committee, we hold the minister to account. So you have to tell us as the committee who these people are that are causing the holdups and the delays, and then we keep an eye on that. That's how we do accountability in Parliament. So I would like to know all the names, please. So SAPO and who else? Then, Chair, I noticed in the slide that we referred back to when we lost the screen, and the slide was referred back to. The yellow stripe indicated in progress, and most of the in progresses had reasonable and sort of easily foreseeable endpoints. But the particular one that concerned me was the one regarding cybersecurity and card security. And that particular marker went right up to the very last moment of where the variation date ends, which is March 2025. So I understand, please, I understand completely. You're in the process of testing cards, you're in the process of getting chips from visas, you've got the certificate sign off, etc. Why then is that particular progress analysis, why is it being pushed to the very last minute? Because I mean, if that doesn't come through, and you've given yourself, you haven't given yourself a strict deadline at which to meet that point, I think leaving it to the very last minute is going to be very detrimental. And I don't think it's fair to put that pressure on the board, and I don't think it's fair to put that pressure on anyone, quite frankly. And I'd like to know why that seems to be the bugbear and the problem area. Chair, so let me leave it there for now and hear what the answers are. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Honorable Mazone. Checking if there are other members that I may be leaving behind. If not, I will then proceed to give the Minister and the team to respond. And maybe once you've responded, you would have clarified some of the questions I'm still battling with in my mind regarding the presentation. Minister, the team.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. I have got a huge crisis. At about 7:30, I'm supposed to be meeting BRPs in preparation for the meeting we're going to have with the Finance Minister tomorrow. But I hope to get done before that, or a little bit, few minutes after that. I would request, thank you, Honorable Chair, thank you, Honorable Mazone. I would request the CEO to deal with all the technicalities. I will deal with other issues that Honorable Mazone raised. CEO?
Thank you, Minister. I just want to thank you, Honorable Mazone. And just on the two questions in terms of the disaster management and the two items that I mentioned, as said that we did a desktop analysis. It's just an audit to say where do we believe the two entities are by no ways causing any delays or hindrance or done anything wrong. It's just that we're saying when we did an audit, we found that there's gaps in those, which is the 50% gap that I'm talking about when we did the desktop analysis in terms of us complying, but they are by no means. It's just any audit that you do, you will find that you're either 100% or you can improve on this, but it is not something that they've done wrong or they've misrepresented themselves or in any way in that manner. And then on the second question, there was the yellow in progress slide, and I think Honorable Mazone was referring to the PCI DSS, and I see the one. We absolutely have not as well committed to do that until the last minute. We've actually committed with PASA that as soon as we are live in April, after we do the first pilot, if you recall, I talked that one, in order to be completed, it also needs that we comply completely, but the testing needs to be done in a live environment, which then when we start distributing in April, early May, then we can only do that live distribution there. And as the only reason we keep that until the end, because for some time we're going to operate, just going back to the technical, as a bank, we're going to operate what we call the old and the new bank. Because remember, the distribution is going to take a period of about 12 months. Therefore, there are some of our customers who are going to be still using the old cards while we haven't distributed them. And that we call the old bank, which once we have distributed and ensured that everyone has a card, we have to switch off. And the only reason then that line goes up to the end of December, because that's when we then have to switch off by December. We have to ensure that we've switched off what we call the old bank, which is why we are here, which is why we have the variation notice. But the only reason that it will still be alive, it's because as we distribute and as we do staggered distribution, we might finish with KZN, but people in the Eastern Cape, we haven't gotten to them. Therefore, they're still operating on the old cards and therefore operating on the old bank, which means therefore we're sitting with two banks, and therefore post-December, we're operating from what inverted commas we're calling new bank. That's the only reason that is kept. But in terms of meeting the variation notice, that with PASA, we've agreed that by the end of April, we need to be 100% compliant. I hope that explains. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, CEO. Let me say to Honorable Mozoni, probably the KPMG report, it had a set of findings. Others were reported to the law enforcement agents. Others were subjected to disciplinary processes. If I remember, others have been fired. I think that detail can be given by the CEO in a subsequent time. But when the board has resigned, there's not much you can do about it unless there's a criminal case attached to a particular individual. Investigations around the KPMG are ongoing. I have no doubt if any of the board members, based on the evidence, is found to be criminally liable, I'm sure the law enforcement agents will have no doubt to deal with that. Once people leave, resign on their own in the board, there isn't much we can do about that. I can sit here and try to say who was right, who was wrong. It's not going to help. But I usually say when people ask me this question, because fortunately, Honorable Mozoni is not asking why did the board left and maybe I messed up. She didn't say that. But the point I want to make is that whenever there's some attempt maybe to be cynical about what happened, I always say, maybe somebody can tell me if a board stayed for 3 years on a disclaimer, 9 years, almost 9 years, no hiring of executives and all these other findings. What do you do with that board? But I think the board was smart enough. They decided to leave because they really realized that they have been allowed for a long time to actually live like that. So that's the point on the board. But on the new board, Honorable Mozoni will remember, in terms of the laws, when the board is not there in the Postbank, an administrator is appointed who act as a board, who act to the accounting authority responsibilities of the board until a new board is appointed. I was excited last year. Adverts went out, immediately everything went out. And I realized the long process it takes to appoint a Postbank board, because it needs the concurrence of the Minister of Finance. You need to notify the Reserve Bank. They need to go for vetting. We are stuck now in vetting, and once that is done, we'll submit it before cabinet. So in the interim, the administrator who have got in terms of the law powers to exercise them as a board until such time is Mr. Ngema, who is working very well with the CEO in that regard. So what steps would you take to avoid another mass exodus? I cannot imagine why should I think of steps, because at any point in time when the conditions that led to the board to leave pertain, I would not have acted differently under any circumstances. So other boards stay who believe that there's nothing wrong they have done, but there are other boards who I suspect they've got good conscience would have left. But the circumstances under which they left and the intentions I had about them would not be different as long as those conditions pertain during another time. So that's the sort of indefinite answer. I'm not sure if it assists. I think the technical issues, the CEO has dealt with them. That's what I could say from what I would consider political accountability. But on the KPMG report, it's something that I've been thinking about. Maybe we need to be legal advice. If it's a kind of a report we can present to the committee and whatever, maybe something that I need to look at. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Unless Honorable Mazone, the hand is a follow-up or a delicacy?
It's a follow-up, Chair.
Okay, deal with that. But as you do the follow-up, I understood the minister to be indicating that at some point he would offload to attend to a BRP in preparation for a meeting with the finance minister. I take it that, Honorable Minister, as you do so, we should be able to interact with the administrator and the CE in the absence of yourself and the Deputy Minister, given the importance of also this other meeting with regard to the sub-BRP you've just did the comment on. Am I correct?
I'm in my hands, Chair. The administrator is here, the CEO is here, they are equal to the task.
Okay, I just wanted that to be clarified so that as I give Honorable Mazone, she shouldn't be worried that baby off the platform. Honorable Mazone can now make the follow-up, and immediately after you have just had those questions clarified on, and then we get a response. Honorable Mazone.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you for letting me follow up. CEO, let me ask you this, because you're obviously a lot more qualified than I am. When you do this crossover from the old bank to the new bank, are there, I mean, obviously our biggest worry is the fact that Postbank will obviously service some of the most vulnerable of our society. And we know what's happened in the past. We've seen what's happened with social grant payments, and we've seen the disaster that's happened there. And of course, we never want to see a repeat of that happening again. Can you just walk us through what your plan is for when the crossover happens, to make sure that the most vulnerable of our society aren't affected in any which way, and that crossover is seamless? Because, you know, when you are dealing with a social grant being your only source of income and literally your lifeline, there's absolutely no room for maneuverability or any chance of something going wrong. And then, Chair, the minister said that the CEO is going to, and the administrator is going to take forward any actions emanating from the KPMG report. But the minister did say one thing that worried me, and it's something that I think we need to pay a lot of attention to. And that is, he said, once the board member is no longer a member of the board, then it's not our issue. How we can't hold them to account. Of course we can. That's why we had the Zondo Commission. It's the very essence of why the Zondo Commission was initiated was because people resigned and people left in the hope of getting out of trouble or evading having to tell the story. And we forced them to come and tell the story and to break open the nut, to open Pandora's box and tell us what in actual fact had happened. So I'd like an assurance from the CEO that this isn't something that's going to be swept under the carpet. And Chair, I'd like to say that if I can pire the KPMG report, then so can anyone. And I think it's a very good idea that KPMG report is presented as one whole separate item to this committee so that the committee can look through it. Now, I realize we're a bit late in the game, but that doesn't mean that the 7th Parliament Committee can't look at that report, because it's still going to be the same report and it's still going to be the Communications and Portfolio Committee. So absolutely, we need to scrutinize that report. We need to look at every aspect of that report. We need to look at what whistleblowers said. We need to look at the full picture, because quite frankly, until we've done that, I'm certainly not going to be at peace that everything is smooth sailing and there's joy and happiness everywhere, because that KPMG report is not a pretty read. It's a horrifying read, and to think that people, if they're not going to be held accountable by just resigning, well, that's a very dangerous precedent that we're setting. And then, Chair, just as a side note, I'm very sorry the minister left, but I'm also very interested to hear a report back from him as soon as possible as to what the business rescue practitioners and Treasury had to say about SAPA. So I hope that we do get to have a chat to the minister about the meeting he's having tonight next week. Thank you, Chair.
Your Honourable Matswane, as indicated, there would have not been other hands. Before I give to you, Administrator and the team, just so that when you respond completely. It helps for one to shape the summary. The committee, when dealing with audit reports, we had a query about the targets set, which 5 and only 1 could be achieved. And the report we had was that all those could not be done because there was a variation order that has been given by the South African Reserve Bank. And of course, I think on behalf of this committee, the statement I've made as I was summarizing was that it therefore means that the committee would have been misled, because we then looked at targets that are not real, that can be implemented because they're prohibited. For example, you can take new products, you can offer that to your customers, you can take on new customers and so on, which then prohibits the growth you need in what would be state bank. So I'm just saying that that's the sense we got at the time. I think that's the first meeting we had with CEO present, the newly appointed. So I just want to check if this could not be one of those. In the slide where you presented the top 3 risks, one of them, which is number 2, was lack of funding. So once you say lack of funding, one gets to be interested in how that can affect this part 2, because in part 2, you've dealt only with matters of cyber and so on. But from a point of growth, which is captured in the notes presented to this committee under the corporate plan, activities for financial year 2023-2024. You've touched one, which was moving offices and get to a particular point that this could not be done. But the sense given to the committee was that the IT modernization will be done and implemented in this period. And that there will be ATMs, there will be branches where you pilot this as Postbank, as per the presentation. Of course, resolve audit issues and so on. Card issuance and so forth. So one just want to know this so that if there's lack of funding, what does that mean in realizing this? And if there's lack of funding, will that mean that was said in the submissions? I think SAT made that submission, that if we really want that state bank, we need to recapitalize that. But at that time, again, a presentation made to the committee, maybe the oversight unit of the department may also want to speak to this. Was these questions arose as we dealt with them? And the understanding would have been that the rate or requirements for establishment of such a bank, in terms of what the Postbank has, far surpasses what is a requirement. So it means it's an entity that can stand on its own, may not require funding and all that. And therefore, these projects that have been listed in the activities under the notes would have been projects that Postbank would be able to carry on its own. So I just want to check if that lack of funding is just about other operations or it actually speaks to these projects. So I'm raising this because the Postbank Amendment Act is now in place, and the president has signed off that from the 19th of February, that's the effective date. And at that time in the committee, it was like, what stands between the license and Postbank is actually then the enabling legislation, which is now in force. So if you can at least clarify so that we know, even on that part, if we would have been, again, misled on that, and that it was not realistic to do so, given this imposition. But as I say, link that to the item you said is a risk, and that one of the lack of funding, whether it has implications for all such projects, which are about the growth of that state. Maybe the third point relates to what is said to be read and delayed. And my worry was when you said it has escalated from a point of just being a dispute, but a legal matter. And legal matters in their own nature get quite protracted, depending on the levels that people appeal on, right? From a risk point of view, what risk are we exposed as a state when our institution will be faced with that? Of course, learning from the experiences where there would be technical glitches and so on. If you have such disputes at that level, are we covered that there cannot be an act or conduct that exposes the Postbank badly at a very critical time, like when payments are to be made and so on. So I'm just doing this to help the committee to look at its notes and what has come before it before, and that we're able to correct and update so that we know what we're dealing with and what we put in our legacy report for the 7th Parliament to look at. So those will be the three main points as you respond to Honorable Mazone. If you can respond to that, and that will help us to put a better summary. Thank you. Now, you can come in, Administrator.
Chair, I think the CEO is going to come, and then with your permission, can I come after the CE? She wanted to clarify certain matters first, but I've noted all the questions. She'll deal with them partially. With your permission.
Yes, the CEO can move in. You can come last, doesn't it?
Thank you so much, Chair. Thank you, Honorable Mazoni, in terms of your question in managing the risk. And absolutely, I think this is one thing we also recognize, that our customer that we're dealing with is quite a sensitive customer in terms of their flexibility or their elasticity to not get their funds. And therefore, every time we deal with anything that we do, we're always mindful of that. We always ensure that the priority in terms of customer experience and in terms of what we committed needs to be delivered. And this is exactly why, in fact, we have approached the project in this manner to keep the old bank while we ensure the new bank is working and ensure that it is operating, it is sustainable, and it is performing as it should. That's the one reason, because we could have done it differently. We could have just switched completely every customer once to the new bank, but we didn't do that. We kept both of them running to ensure that customers are still able to operate and able to use their cards before we migrate. But also we start taking away the old card once we have verified and ensured the new bank is working. But also just to, even another risk mitigating or another way to just guarantee that we ensure things are working. That is why even the distribution is staggered, so that we manage anything that we pick up to ensure that we never ever disturb the customer in terms of their ability to get their grants. That as well that if you remember, another risk mitigating factor that we put in place, that last year we went to ask from Visa a waiver that of the existing cards that they operate until December 2024. So every customer should, if you don't have the new card, your old card will still operate until 2024. While saying that, we're very mindful to ensure that no customer ever sits with both cards, because we also have ways that we make sure that we guarantee that we receive. So as you come and get your new card, the requirement is that you must bring your old card, and that old card is disabled, just to ensure as well. We also manage that risk. And then, of course, when we've done that, then we'll decommission the old system once we know everything is working, once we know that all customers are protected and all customers are able to transact. So absolutely aligned with you in terms of making sure that we do not have any disruptions in terms of how our customers are operating. So we've put those 4 contingencies in place. Just on your questions, Chair, in terms of lack of funding, the answer is that it is true. Yes, there is one that is broader in terms of the bank, in terms of where we want to be, in terms of the capitalization of the bank in order to create the proper state bank that we're talking about. So there is that. This one is also linked, though, particularly to this project, that we really wanted different manners in terms of how we distribute the cards, in terms of just making sure we digitize, we modernize how we do that. But because of that lack of funding, we have to do it manually. We literally have to put a desk, but ensuring that it is in a safe, compliant environment that is ticked off. But we literally have to do that now, make sure that we put individuals there, because we couldn't improve and ensure that that process is more systematic than we would have, in the way that we would have liked. So it does impact the project. I think we've done well in terms of containing and ensuring what we call prerequisites, which is the IT capabilities are available. And therefore, that's why now we can sit proudly today that we have a card that we can work with. Well, the test card has been passed. and Visa, because all of that is just saying that we have now produced a card from a compliant system, which will then be finally also in terms of the one compliance that we talked about in April, that will be the final compliance. And therefore that will be the sign off from the SAB to say, we are then comfortable that you have complied with the PASA is happy with you, the SAB is happy with you in terms of you are running a compliant bank in terms of producing cards. So that's absolutely, so that's the funding. Yes, in the broader, I think I've answered in terms of how does it impact the strategy. It does absolutely impact the strategy, although in terms of how we've done our strategy to next year, in fact, we've said now as a business, we've looked at, now that we're very aware that National Treasury cannot give us any funding, what can we do in terms of ensuring that we still deliver to the strategy of the next financial year as we anticipated. And I think our plan is quite sound. It means a lot of things have to happen, a lot of work has to happen in terms of ensuring that we still deliver. It might not be as optimal as we wanted, but we're definitely not sitting back and saying, well, National Treasury did not give us money, and therefore the plan for next year. Just coming back to also the IT modernization was never around. I think the items that I have on that slide are exactly what IT modernization. Hence, I think I always talk about it to go, we probably in the past miscommunicated. I suppose I can only take the blame internally of what IT modernization really should deliver to the bank. I think on the last committee, when we reported in terms of the current APP, absolutely, it had ambitions that we should have so many branches, we should have so many ATMs and what have you. But I think that was quite an ambitious plan. That was never going to be necessarily possible, because firstly we have a variation notice, but also it needed quite high funding, but also it just needed differently in terms of the resources that we need within. In fact, I always make an example that if you want to run branches, you have to operationally, regionally have staff, have a cash center that you run, the compliance of it, the cost of transporting the cash to those environments, it can add up. So it really means that you have funding. But having said that, I think the strategy that we have now is actually questioning whether we even need brick and mortar branches, because we know that every bank is moving away from that channel strategy, and therefore our strategy going forward has actually accommodated absolutely the target segments that we targeted. So we're also mindful who we deliver to, but at the same time, how do we ensure that we are future fit and also in a manner that goes as the segment changes in terms of what they will look like and what they need, so that we can compete with other banks. I think the other one was the rate delayed in terms of the legal matter. I think that's the better answer, Chair, because you're saying, will it impact operations? It shouldn't. It shouldn't impact operations. Having said that, the supplier that we are in dispute today with has had some understanding that they could use that to disrupt some operations, which we've also fought with them legally, and we're continuing to deal with them, to go, you cannot, because the current systems that we're using are paid for and whatever, they have nothing to do with IT modernization. But what that delay to the IT modernization in terms of how we use our databases and how this Oracle license would have enabled, it does delay in terms of the modernization of the bank, as you also shared that a legal battle would have taken longer. And I also just want to add, we did try to discuss this around the table. We did try to have these conversations. We did try everything in our power, meeting in boardrooms to try and resolve. But the party is set on not changing its mind. And we feel like we absolutely, I think that we feel that government is being robbed completely I mean, the dispute is quite a large amount, and therefore it is worth fighting for, that we believe that what we pay for should deliver what we believe it should cover. I hope I've covered everything, Chair. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Chair. Through permission, and just to just add three things. One is that we've mandated management to deal with the legal matter firmly, because it's quite an important matter to resolve. We're hopeful that it can be resolved from a board perspective, but it's being attended to as we speak. The second issue around the issue of targets was just to add the point that our view is that maybe it wasn't necessarily a question of misleading, but what has happened is that we've refined the strategy as we went along, just to look at how we benchmark with all other banks and how we position, and the issue of digital first bank has become quite critical. I think that's the issue that we're dealing with. So we're hoping that, you know, it's part of the ongoing improvement to make sure that we come up with a commercially successful bank that can compete with other banks that are there, but still fulfill the developmental mandate that's required of it. The third point, Chair, I wanted to raise is that in relation to governance issues, obviously the shareholder was very clear to us that the matters that of governance that needed to be attended to do need to be attended to. We got the legal opinion, we needed to deal with it. And in fact, it turned out that some of the contractual issues we're dealing with were also very important issues in the disclaimer audit opinion we're getting. So we are attending to those issues, Chair, and we will deal with them. We are proceeding. So just to assure the members that we are proceeding to deal with issues of irregularities of contracts that we have to attend to. They are being attended to, and we will indicate progress as we go along on those issues. And the last issue to raise about funding is that conversation with National Treasury is ongoing. We know that they are hard pressed for many reasons that I think members of Parliament knows around those issues, but we are looking into how to make the state bank financially viable. Obviously, we did get dealt with by some of the issues that happened because we were creditor to some of the entities. We got hit in that regard, but we are attending to the issue of how to deal with those issues, and I think we will come back to Parliament as we get clarity from the stakeholders that we're talking to. Thanks. I think Minister and CE have dealt with the rest of the issues. Thanks.
Thank you for the responses, and thank you, honorable members, for processing this item as we wrap up on it. I think what is important is that members have received the presentation, and of course they have accepted the presentation, and the engagements are meant to really enhance the work that needs to be done. And that's why there's appreciation where we would have achieved, especially where the timelines are quite clear on what is possible by when. And of course, concerns that are raised are about ensuring that the institution firstly is protected, but not just protected from the people, especially the targeted customers that Postbank needs to look at. But I think the most important point is the understanding that having put enabling legislation in place, there's reasonable expectation from the people of South Africa, especially those that are targeted by the state bank called Postbank, that they will receive best service as they would expect to receive from any other bank. So it is not because it's a state bank, things would not be what they are supposed to be. So that's at all times, the guarantee we must give to people. And that guarantee can only be on the basis of the work that gets done by the institution to get to that level. One is happy that the issues about funding with National Treasury are still an issue of engagement, because the state is aware that it's setting up a state bank, and it has to do everything possible to make it a point that it realizes that it has set itself. So we support that matter must be looked at. Of course, I do not expect you, administrator, to understand it as misleading. Like I said, it is in the words of the chair of the meeting, as I did before. If you say you will grow by 8% from 2024 because you would have finalized critical IT modernization and giving or offering new products, then on the basis of that, your 8% growth target is based on that. Knowing that you cannot offer new projects or new products because there is an order imposed on you. In my words, would have misled us to believe that you can do an 8% growth. And I know as a successor now to the board, you have to take all the responsibility. But for us, we look at it from a point of continuation. That if that was known at that time, surely the focus, which is what you say is change of strategy, the focus should have been to meet what the South African Reserve Bank says, so that you are then able to attire yourself and be able to move forward then. So it is not personally to whoever is there, but we're looking at the institution and what the institution has been able to present before us. And we now know that those are not possible. So we have to support you to do what is right. And we've already shown progress on meeting those instructions or impositions of the South African Reserve Bank. We can only hope that indeed once that is done, we are able at one point to stand up with confidence and say the State Bank has a proper license and it's able to service our people. Because in the main, it's also to take these banking services to areas where this would not be an easy thing to have. But of course, the products are also about the transformation of the finance sector, that it is able to unlock the potential business people who have not been able to get funding in the mainstream banking, that they can be able to do so. So when you pronounce small business support, you must see it with the State Bank first, that it's able to do so. So we must take the task at hand, I think, quite seriously, in that it's a transformation issue more than anything else. So I want us to wrap it up in that way. And of course, Honorable Mazone, we may not have the time to get Postbank back again on the matters we've raised. I agree with you that those should form part of what gets into our leaders' report that we'll be adopting next week. So that the 7th Parliament can at least make follow-up on such matters, whether it's investigations and so on, and how they've been resolved. So that then conclude this item on the Postbank. Like I said, I would not keep you on the platform if you still have to work out the cards that they get issued to the masses, and that you protect the ones that exist. give you space to do so. But if you so want to stay, just welcome to stay. Otherwise, we give you permission to leave as we get to the next item. Committee support.
Chairperson, the next item is the briefing on the bill, Chair. Just an update.
Okay, I take it that Ms. Tati is on the platform. She will then take us through that opinion and advice that I would want to give, and that from there would be able to just give some guidance on how we then take the matter forward. Ms. Mtati, I hope you can hear.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, Chairperson and honorable members. Am I audible, Chair?
Yes, can you clear?
Okay, Chair, I'll briefly turn on just to put on the camera so that the committee can be able to see the person speaking behind the mic.
Your video is muted. Okay, we now can see you.
Oh, with your leave, Chair, can I turn off then the video?
Okay, permitted, you can proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, can the committee, I'll try to, I might be having some connectivity issues on my side. Can I ask the Secretariat to assist in flighting the opinion, but I'll try and share on my side and see if I'm able to share the opinion. Are you able? Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, Chair. The opinion, Chair, was requested by the committee for the Parliamentary Legal Services to advise whether the bill would be able to withstand the constitutional test or constitutional muster after looking at the submissions received from the public. And we've had a look, Chairperson, of and we perused all the submissions that we received. And in our opinion, we set up the background where we indicate that the bill was introduced in the National Assembly as a proposed Section 75 bill on the 13th of October 2023. And then the joint taking mechanism classified the bill as a Section 35 bill, and then the Department Communication and Digital Technologies then briefed the committee on the bill on 31 October 2023. We then go on and indicate that there was an advertisement placed by the by Parliament on the committee on 18 November 2023, calling for comments on the SABC bill, and then there were requests for extensions or from a number of stakeholders, and it was extended to the 16th of January 2024. The committee received about 17 submissions and 3 letters of support, and given the number then of the submissions, with the majority not supporting the draft bill in its current form, then the committee took that resolution that the matter be referred to the Parliamentary Legal Services Department to analyze these public opinions as indicated. Chair, just as briefly, I would want to set out that our opinion sets out the applicable rules that a portfolio committee must follow after a bill has been referred to it, and therefore the constitutional and legal issues that we're referring to are those ones. And in our opinion, Chair, we looked at those issues and our department, since we have not we are not at a stage where we have the responses by the department. We only, the opinion only looked at the processes in Parliament. What does Parliament do once we receive a bill? And then we go on. Can you move up? And then we indicate that policy issues then are for the department to address, and that those can only be done at the end of public participation process. Chairperson, as we were perusing the submissions, we noted that some of the issues, or the majority of the issues, related to policy issues, and therefore the department will be able to respond to that in its responses. And then in our legal framework, we indicate that the Constitution is the supreme law of the Republic, and that any law that is inconsistent with this Constitution is invalid. And we touch on, because the committee is a National Assembly committee, then we touch on Section 57(1)(b) of this Constitution, which provides that the National Assembly may make rules and orders concerning its business with due regard to representative and participatory democracy, transparency, and public involvement. Therefore, pursuant to this, then we have what we call the National Assembly rules, which were adopted by the NA, which find application for purposes of this opinion. Looking at, we have quoted Rule 286, which is a rule basically dealing with the process in committees. The underlined, Chairperson, it's for our own emphasis, more to indicate that once the bill is before the committee, then this is the process that the committee would have to follow. And when you look at the rules of the NA, these rules are peremptory, Chairperson, and that the committee then would have to go through. And I'm not going to go through every rule, every sub rule that is in the Chairperson. Can you go up? I just want to mention a few, that the fact that under the discussion, I would indicate that from the reading of the bill, it seeks to repeal the Broadcasting Act and to amend the Independent Communication Authority of South Africa, which is Act number 13 of 2000, and the Electronic Communications Act, to regulate the continued existence of the South African Broadcasting Corporation in order to provide public media service in the public interest, to align with legislative developments and give effect to court judgments. The court judgments, Chairperson, have been highlighted in the footnote in the opinion itself, which one of them is the Dalimpofu versus SABC and others, as well as SOS Support Broadcast Coalition, SABC. So also further, Chair, this bill seeks, amongst other things, to align the bill with the provisions of the Companies Act, align the bill with certain provisions of Public Finance Management Act, the PMFMA, to give effect to the recommendation of the ad hoc committee on the SABC board inquiry by the National Assembly. As indicated in the quoted of in the quoted rules, Chairperson, you would note, and honorable members, you would note that the NA Rule 2864I requires the relevant committee to, after due deliberation, consider a motion of desirability on the subject matter of the bill. We have not reached the stage in this committee. The options then are available to the committee in processing the bill are to either adopt or reject a motion of desirability on the bill. If then the motion of desirability, which is the MOD, is adopted, the committee must then continue with its public participation. Chairperson, you would note that even though the rules indicates that there has to be the adoption. There has to be an adoption of a motion of desirability. It depends from committee because it is not other committees would want to hear the public first before adopting the motion of desirability. Others, after the briefing of the department, would immediately adopt the motion of desirability. It depends on the committee, on how the committee would want to proceed in terms of the motion of desirability. Then only then will the committee be in a position to ascertain whether involvement when oral submission will be scheduled, more involvement when oral submission will be scheduled. Thereafter, the committee must deliberate on the bill, considering all the public submissions, the evidence including legal opinion it may have received on the bill, and amendments proposed by members of the committee. It is during this stage that the committee must consider constitutionality of issues raised and amend those issues which are inconsistent with the Constitution. It will be instructive of the committee chairperson, looking at where we are currently, to consider its program and whether the remainder of the parliamentary term provides for sufficient time to satisfy the requirement of adequate public participation during this term. The committee may then formally adopt any amendments to the bill it has agreed to thereafter and adopt the bill with or without amendments as the NA rules allows the committee. Chairperson, I'm not sure. The opinion is no longer flighted. I'm not sure whether it's on my side.
Take it that that would be fixed. May probably be checked somewhere, because I also can't see it.
Thank you, Chairperson.
I'm back, Chair. I'm back,
Okay.
Chairperson.
So that's fixed. Can we get back?
Okay. Thank you, Chairperson. Can you move up, Mr. Ngoma? Thank you. The committee then needs to decide, given the briefing by, can you go up on 18, paragraph 18? Thank you. Oh, okay. Then the committee needs to decide whether, given the briefing by the department, the public comments, both written and oral, and the responses from the department, the bill is required to address the purpose it is meant to address. As indicated previously, Chair, the members of the Portfolio Committee are also tasked with considering and debating the bill in order to determine whether they are satisfied with the provisions of the bill. If the committee is not satisfied with the provisions of the bill can be amended. The NA rules allows this to reflect the version which the committee prefers. We touch on the constitutionality, on the constitution that vests legislative authority to the National Assembly, and the NA rules set out the process in terms of which a committee may amend a bill referred to it. In view of the above facts and discussion, the committee is advised to follow the process as prescribed in Rule 286 of the NA rules, and then resolve when it is in a position to decide on the motion of desirability. Further, the NA rules undoubtedly permit the committee to make amendments in order to address any constitutional issues in the bill. The committee can invite further comments on any subsequent amendments that materially or substantially change the content of the bill. Having indicated earlier on, Chairperson, that from our side as Parliamentary Legal Services, we only looked at the constitutional procedure as at this point, because we are not in possession of the public participation has not been finalized, and also we are not in possession of the department's responses, and those responses are to be done in committee, so that the department responds to the public comments in committee. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Ms. Mutati. Honorable members, that's the presentation. I see Honorable Mlala's hand is up. So I'm taking comment. Now we take this forward, followed by Honorable Mason. Honorable Mlala.
Chairperson, thanks, and thanks to my colleagues there for the presentation from the legal service. I think, Chair, we have deliberated on this bill quite extensively on our own as a committee, and we agreed that we take all our concern to the legal unit so that they can advise after our long deliberation. So my view, Chair, is that we appreciate the legal opinion and maybe allow the Chair to summarize so that we can move forward with the recommendation of that legal opinion. Because we can't request an opinion and then later come back and criticize the same opinion. So that's my proposal, Chair, that you summarize the opinion and then chart the way forward.
Honorable Mazzone, do you want to bring clarity?
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, from what I understood from the legal opinion of the Parliamentary Legal Services, we have one of two options. The one is that we forge ahead, but then we have to meet all the constitutional obligations. And I think we need to be realistic. There's absolutely no way that's going to happen by the time, never mind by the time this particular term ends, which is next week, Friday, when we rise for the constituency period. But it will be impossible to happen before the election. And we know very well that the chances of Parliament sitting any time before the election after next week, Friday, is little to none. Therefore, Chair, it's of my opinion that as a committee, the responsible thing to do is pass a motion of non-desirability and refer the bill back and let the 7th Parliament then deal with the bill, but to then have the bill withdrawn. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Mazzone. If there are no further comments, let me try and make the points made by Honorable Mlala and yourself as I ask you to lower your hands. Yes, so that I don't think it's an order, Honorable Mlala. Just lower the hand. Or committee supporters system to lower the hand. I think, honorable members, maybe the legal may want to just explain again desirability and non-desirability, so that it helps in what Honorable Mlala asked us, summarize and guidance we need to give to the committee so that whatever we adopt, we have a balance. Because I would have my own interpretation that at the stage we're in, we cannot come to a conclusion that the Act was not desirable to have, given what it needed to address. But that there are other issues we have to address. So I just wanted to clarify that point first, and that we can then make a summary way forward, matching the views that are on the table. Ms. Mtati, do you want to?
Thank you, Chairperson. I think, Chairperson, the issue of the MOD, which is the motion of desirability, the committee would look into whether the bill, as it is before the committee, the bill does it address the purpose it is meant to address. If then that is a yes, then the committee would then say that the bill is desirable. But having said that, if the bill, in the view of the committee, does not address what the bill seeks to address, what is meant to address, then the committee would take that motion, would then reject the bill and make that call. So what the committee needs to look at now is whether the committee is of the view that taking into account, but the problem is the issue now is that the public, we haven't had both the written and oral submissions at we have only written, and the oral submissions have been postponed, and the responses from the department, we are not privy to them. The committee is also not privy to that. Maybe there are issues that the department may want to raise, and then that would change the decision of the committee and indicate that the bill is desirable. Does it address what is meant to address? Like, is it in alignment with the case law? Is it in alignment with what the Department of Communications wants this bill to do? Then the committee can take that. I'm not sure whether I'm answering the chair correctly.
No, you've asked that quite a lot. So, like I said, we'll then try and merit the points on the table. I think from a committee point of view, we've always wanted amendments for different reasons, but in the main to enable the SABC to be sustainable. That will talk to funding model and so on, which the bill seeks to address in terms of purpose. However, it postpones that to 36 months when you have challenges in the SABC currently, right? Of course, you will argue that from the rules that you've read, that may require amendment, and that the committee can look at an amendment. But as we all know, the truth would be that because this was also an engagement pressure, that's why we are where we are today. So it may also need such an engagement going back, and there may be no time for that. But the other point of public participation is that we have received submissions. We've not received any request for oral presentation outside of those that have already submitted. What that means is that in the main, it will be to re-emphasize and further clarify the points they have made in the submission. So you are not looking at new ideas in that sense, except points to further clarify what has been put. So this is the same thing we had when we were dealing with the Postbank. There were those who requested that they appear before the committee so as to elaborate the points that they would have made, which would have allowed. In the SAP one, we couldn't allow because the points were quite clear from the submission. So I'm just saying that with that has been received, the committee also got an analysis report of what comes out of submission, which is why I wanted an engagement legally, but also extended that the department also input in that so that you've got a balanced view in terms of what you want to advise the committee on. And I had confirmation that the department did receive what has been received so as to also prepare themselves in that regard. Now, this is the major amendment that's being made, as already shown in the submissions that would have been made. Even from a committee point of view, Section 12, as it stands, still exactly where we were. At the time, we had a lacuna that were having challenges of going around it. When the board's term expired without the board having been finalized, and that we could not appoint an interim board because the provision of the law is that that interim arrangement only happens as dissolution, and the board was not dissolved. It therefore says that when you put an amendment to the law, you also track those experiences and make sure that the law addresses those gray areas so that there's no question on how to respond to such matters if they were to occur in the future. So it also goes back there. And if honorable members would remember, that 12 was the bone of contention in that whole period of the to and fro about the appointment of the current SABC board. So we'll not be doing the same. So we definitely need enough time to engage those issues. So for me, it's not a point that it's not desirable at this point. We really needed such a law. And the areas that need to address as the peoples agree with them, but how they are put in the actual bill as it stands, it then also defeats that. And that's why amendments are dead and so on and so on. And then get the public also into confidence so that they make their inputs. Already, you referred to case laws. There are also case laws about participatory democracy. And the last thing you do is when you know that you can be challenged successfully, that you did not allow proper public participation so that the people are not just asked to participate, but they are seen to be participating in the formulation of laws that affect them, right? So I want to guide the four members that at the stage where we are in, we would not be able to move further than where we are. We think there are amendments that may need to be considered, and that probably we then put that in our legacy report, that this bill could not be concluded by this committee because there are these matters that we have, including the need to ensure meaningful public participation. And therefore, it would be in the hands of the 7th Parliament whether they want to resuscitate the bill at the stage that, or they would want to restart the process of the bill if they are not satisfied on where we are. So that there's closure on the matter, and we do not proceed for the sake of proceeding. it's also in our interest that the laws we make, when we stand on the other side of the fence, when we're no longer lawmakers, we should be able to say that these laws that we're making, we didn't do it for the sake of doing them or rushing them because we want to complete a term, there's an election. But we know that we're making laws that have long-term implications on institutions that people generally. Right. So it will then help the department to also, as I say, address even the alignment issues. Because I do not know how I will ignore that a white paper gives particular definition, and then in the bill we propose another definition on the same matter. And that would lead to misalignment in implementation. And when you have a chance to have corrected that, you cannot blame yourself to have done so when you've been advised. So if anybody was to ask me, have we listened to the public? Yes. And that's why we went to legal. It's because we took serious what had been raised with us, including our own concerns. And that's how we are going to take it forward. So it will be in legacy report because time is really not on the side, but also want to do a job, which we think the 7th Parliament would have adequate time compared to what we have. So I'm trying to match both points that have been made, Honorable Mlala and Honorable Mazoni, who have contributed to the item. And then take it that the other members also not have an issue in that regard. So that we're done, at least with this part, and move 2 minutes. Are we fine?
No, we're fine, Chair.
Thank you. So I've not left anyone behind. Can we then get to the minutes? Thank you, legal. If you really want to be excused and get what remains of the evening, you can. But if you also wish to stay, you are still not prohibited. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Can I be excused? Thank you.
Thank you. We are now on the minutes, minutes of the 12th of March. So the briefing on the progress on BDM and the training program we had. I just check if the members would want to correct anything. If not, can we get mover second? A mover and seconder. No. Then this is about attendance. We received apologies. So let's get those. Honorable Mlala.
Yeah, can I'm not sure if Chair I'm moving or seconding, but I think I'm moving for the adoption of the minutes.
All right, mover for adoption. Can I get a seconder from those who are in attendance? Can I get a seconder? Want to move from the item and get to close. I have Honorable Pambo who was representing, and Honorable Mdagane who was present.
Chairperson, members.
No, it seems it's me who's out. I'm not sure because I do see the members are.
Chairperson, are you waking them up?
I'm just calling Mr. Ndagane.
And I do second.
But then I'm not the one to be woken up. I leave that to administration. But all I needed was.
Good morning, Mr. Ndagane.
Hello. Hello.
Ndagane, I hope your dinner was very nice.
No, hey, I don't even have dinner.
Are you second in the minute?
Yeah, no, yes, no, Chair. I'm seconding Comrade Zex for moving for approval of the minute.
So that means he was not Honorable Bodlan. He could hear that it says for Honorable Mlala.
No, in fact, I've been listening attentively.
I've
been part of the meeting until the end, Chair. Ubodlana angadlali ngami before unyaka uphela.
Now, Honorable Bodlani has withdrawn. We are now proceeding. We have the minutes approved. That committee support takes us to the next item. Honorable Mazone, I'm not sure you lost connectivity yourself.
No.
The summary, it was agreed. We move with that summary.
I agreed with my colleague, Chair.
Okay, that's good. Can we then get to the last item, which is it closure?
That was closure, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Honorable members, thanks for making up time, especially this meeting being held after the House sitting. Just to say that the 26th will also be after the House sitting because of changes in the Parliament program. Please let's make time to have our own report, the legacy report adopted. The meeting stays adjourned until we meet again.